Hey Jeep fans, my name is Liam with Gone Jeepin', and I have had an amazing day with my friend here, Todd. If you don't know, we are currently at Fall Color Tour in Colorado, and Todd was nice enough to let me sit in his passenger seat and talk his ear off. But he has a story to tell as well. Todd, what are we looking at here, and what is this thing, and what did I just ride in?
This is a 1946 CJ-2A that I got 2 years ago. Pulled it out of a field with my dad. We rebuilt the engine and did the brakes and all kinds of stuff to fix it up, get it running and driving again, and it's been awesome. I've driven it probably like 2,500 miles since then and take it around town all the time.
Yeah, and we just spent an entire day in this Jeep conquering some, I wouldn't say overly treacherous trails, but definitely entertaining, and you're not doing it in your sedan, let's put it that way. Okay, Todd, I want to give your Jeep some justice. So we're going to do a full walk around of this Jeep. We're starting at the front, and we're going to work our way to the back, and we're going to cover just about anything you're going to tell us about it.
Sounds good.
So let's start at the front. There is something that is just glaring, and it is your winch. I don't see a motor on this winch, however. What is...
It is not an electric winch like most people know. Back in the day, lots of things were driven off of PTOs, power takeoff, and that is a splined shaft that comes out of a transmission, and a lot of people may know that from tractors. Back in the day when they were marketing the Jeep to the civilians, they wanted to sell to farmers, and they had all kinds of implements that they would attach to the Jeeps, like mowers or plows or winches or water pumps that were all driven off the engine and transmission of the Jeep. And that way you only had one gas tank to fill and one engine to maintain. The Jeep is still 6-volt. Which a lot of people like to upgrade that to 12 volt just to make it a little bit more modern, that they can charge their cell phone while they're driving or put brighter headlights in it, or I don't know, it makes it start easier and crank faster and everything like that. They like their modern amenities. I like to keep it 6-volt just to keep it just like it was. They did make 6-volt winches. They are very, very rare and very, very expensive. So I wanted to go with this PTO winch. It's I like mechanical things and figuring it out and stuff like that. And it for sure was an endeavor, and I bought it piece by piece. There's a lever inside that you have to engage the PTO so that it actually engages the transmission to make the drive shaft spin. So it has a different drive shaft that runs this underneath. Basically start the engine, put the transfer case in neutral so the tires aren't spinning, and then you engage the PTO and you use the actual shifter. So reverse is really spool out, so that's reverse, and then winch line in, you can use first, second, or third, depending on what speed and with RPMs that you want that PTO to spin. If you're in a really off camber situation, you would put it in first, obviously, and have it winch super slow, and then you just use the gas pedal and it controls the speed of the winch. So it's really interesting on the technology of how it works.
So you basically get in and you drive the Jeep, except instead of the power going to the wheels,
right,
it goes to your winch, to the cable.
Yep.
And I love that it's variable speed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can, that's hard to find, right? On electric winches.
Right. And so the other advantage to a PTO winch is an electric winch has a duty cycle that you can only pull 50 feet of rope every 10 minutes or whatever those duty cycles are, I don't know. But a PTO winch can run all day long because it's just running off the engine. There is no, you know, it's full gear oil and stuff like that, but it's not going to overheat. There is no solenoid that overheats or anything like that, motor that overheats. The disadvantage is you have to have a Jeep with a running engine. So if you're driving a big mud puddle and flood the engine and it's not running, well, your winch isn't pulling you out either. But it's just a cool technology thing that gets some attention. And I customized the bracket. So it's a Ramsey winch. They still make winches today, made in the USA. It's a Ramsey winch off of a tow truck. I made my own bracketry and mounting plate to the frame and to the bumper. Cut the bumper for the fair lead, and then I run a synthetic line on it just for safety and to cut down on weight on the Jeep. You know what I mean? This synthetic line weighs 5 pounds versus 50 pounds of steel, 100 foot of steel
Right.
cable. You know, there's 100 foot of 100 foot of rope on there, which gets you pretty much out of any situation you're in.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah. So then also on the front, there's a few oddities to this Jeep. It's a 46-2A, and you can tell that by the headlights are a different style than a newer 2A, that they are a fixture mounted to the grille with this gap between it. So the previous owner of this Jeep put a 3A windshield on it, which is from late 40s to early 50s. It has a single piece of glass, whereas a 2A windshield has a split in the middle, and sometimes they'll fold out for ventilation. This one has a vent in here, so you can get some air conditioning in there if you want to. I put electric wipers on here just to help out with the rain. But the main reason the previous owner put this windshield on there is it's a little bit taller than a 2A windshield, and he had a metal Coing hardtop and doors on it. Wow. So I have that at home too that I'll put on in the winter time, and that way I can go have some fun in the snow and stay a little bit warm. There's no heat in it or anything like that.
Really what you're doing with this Jeep is you're like, you know what? It's an old Jeep. We're going to keep it an old Jeep. But we're also going to drive the snot out of it.
Yeah.
We're going to, you're going to take it on the highway, which you were telling me about.
For sure.
You're going to take it on the trails. You'll drive it here and there. Extra lighting, winch, D-rings, whatever gets you home safely. But you're still driving an old Jeep. And it drives and runs and feels like...
With just some safety upgrades or performance upgrades, just enough to make it a little bit better on the trail, but not go crazy and do engine swaps and axle swaps and stuff like that. It's all bone stock, same engine as it was back in 1946 when it rolled off the line, same transmission, axles, stuff like that. Obviously put some modern tires on it just so they're a little bit more safe on the road in slick conditions or higher speed conditions, you know what I mean? The previous owner upgraded the brakes to an 11-inch drum brake, which is off of like a International Scout, or there were some CJ-5s and stuff that it's an easy swap because they used the same Dana 41 and Dana 25 axles. So it's like that's an easy upgrade.
You mentioned powertrain. Why don't we open the hood?
Let's
dive right in. Let's see what we got.
For sure. All right, so here's the L134 engine. It's a flathead 4-cylinder. Go Devil was the nickname for this series of their Jeep engines. It's pretty simple. It's basically a tractor engine. It has very minimal control. You can literally run it off of one power wire if you wanted to. So radiator is original or possibly rebuilt at some point, but I didn't touch a thing other than fill it up and it didn't leak. Carburetor right here, single barrel carburetor, Carter, and a fuel filter for that. Those are both from a great guy, Scout Pilot's his name. He lives in North Carolina, and he is the Jeep carburetor whisperer. You send him your carb, he fixes it up, he rebuilds it, whatever it needs. He actually puts it on his own Jeep, tunes it, makes sure it works, and warranties it, ships it back to you, and you can call him up if you have any problems, and he'll talk you through how to tune it and everything like that. This is the horn. Air intake over here is a oil bath filter. That's better for dust situations.
Yep.
So there's about a pint, I think, of motor oil in there, and it gets sucked up in there, and all the dust particles get sucked into the oil. And in a dusty situation,
theory anyway, right?
And in a dusty situation, you're supposed to change this more often, like if you were plowing fields or something like that. And oil filter here, dipstick tube. Spark plugs are literally right here, easy access.
Yeah, so
battery.
This engine it's incredibly simple.
Yeah.
And it's really easy and fun to work on. And I'm looking around this engine bay and I'm seeing you have writing here and the points are here, the valves.
Yep. So I got tired
plugs.
of trying to remember what page of the manual all those numbers and settings were on. So yeah, just took a paint marker, wrote all those settings that for the spark plug gap, the valve gap, point setting, oil changed here at what the mileage was and stuff like that.
You have a wrench, which is making up your battery holder.
Yep.
That to me kind of screams rat rod. A little bit. Yeah. And you made a comment earlier about rat rods.
Okay.
And how this kind of follows that.
I like original,
movement.
custom, artsy kind of stuff. I'm an artist, I'm a designer, and I like those things that not everybody notices. But, you know, it was in the garage the other night at Mike's house, and some guy was like, oh, look at that battery tie down. You know what I mean? But it's an old wrench picked up at a swap meet for $1 or whatever, and welded some threaded rod to it and stuff like that. Liam, you didn't see the radiator overflow bottle either.
Oh, it's Coors.
Yeah, Coors beer bottle in there so that when this overflows, when it gets a little bit of hot, that it doesn't dump the coolant on the ground. It fills this up. Just some other things, you know, it's sort of a raw vehicle, metal, and I like to highlight those kind of things and make it a little bit interesting to look at and make it my own, you know, make it a little bit original to
you.
Yeah.
Fingerprint almost.
Yeah.
I'm looking around this Jeep and you've got a really beautiful patina. Lots of raw metal that's got some surface rust on it. But then I see a ton of other colors.
Yeah.
What was the original color of this Jeep?
So in 1946, the Jeeps came in two options, Harvest Tan and Pasture Green, I think they were called, which both are very tractory farm colors. So it was a light tan color that you can see still under the hood here, like a desert tan. And that color came with bright orange wheels. And then the other version was bright green with yellow wheels, like another manufacturer of tractors that you might know. The previous owner must own a paint shop or like to change it every couple years. I have no idea what the backstory is, but you can see here, tan, red, black, and then there's some more colors on the exterior. So here on the Willys logo, sort of has a different layering. So we can still see tan, black, red, a dark green color, primer gray, fluorescent green color, and then this sort of, I call it UPS brown, chocolate brown color. That's the top coat, which I have only seen one or two other brown Jeeps, so I love it. Makes it original instead of
that's right,
one of the
one
stock
of the flock.
colors. Yeah. My plan is to leave it just like this, you know, repair what needs repaired, but leave the patina because people love it.
So in the engine bay, we noticed there were a few things that were not necessarily normal, a little different, maybe a bit more artistic.
Yeah.
And I understand that your interior has a couple of these gems as well.
For sure. So I was inspired by the previous owner. Just when I was starting to clean out all the mouse nests and everything else that was in the Jeep after getting it, he liked to customize the Jeep, which inspired me to sort of keep some of those things that he did, but also build off of it and make it more original to me. One of those crazy things is on the brake and clutch pedal, he welded a W on each one. I've never seen this anywhere else. And it's like a 3D thing that I guess if your boots are muddy or whatever, it gives you a little bit of grip so your feet don't slip off of there. And that's sort of what like made me think, well, I don't want to make this Jeep perfectly restoration correct. I want to make it my own. So here we'll just zip through all these things real quick that he did first, and then I'll tell you what I made myself. Ashtray, cigarette lighter, turn signal, which is a upgrade. I added a few things on top of that. I built a custom center console here to hold cell phones, drinks, you know, stuff like that, but then it has another compartment in here to stash camera gear and flashlights and stuff like that, because there's always stuff bouncing around in the Jeep and you lose it when you're going over rocks and stuff. Little bag here to throw some other sunglasses and stuff like that in. This is the PTO shifter right here. Put a shotgun shell on that because it didn't have a shifter knob, so I needed something to put on there. Coca-Cola bottle opener. A lot of vintage Jeep guys like to put those on their Jeep somewhere to open their Coca-Colas, obviously, while hitting the trail. License plates on the floor to patch up some holes that were in there. Funny story is, all of those license plates came off of the back of this Jeep when I got it. They were stacked, layered thick for some reason. I don't know what the history of it is, but it's really cool because I live in Pennsylvania, got the Jeep in Pennsylvania, and they're all Pennsylvania plates from, I don't know, somewhere from the 60s to the 80s. So it sort of tells maybe how many times he re-registered it, or maybe different owners. I have no idea. There were no seats. There were like race car seats in here or something out of some other vehicle. So what I did is me and my mom sewed this waterproof fabric to make some seat covers. We wanted it more padded than the old canvas ones that you see in the other Jeeps. And that way it's waterproof, so when it gets rained on, you just dry it off with a towel, and it's great. Seat belts, obviously. Replaced the gas tank because it was all rusted. We got a high lift jack back here, somewhere from the 20s. So that's in there for any sort of flat tire needs or anything like that. And oh, here's one other thing that the previous owner did. There are wooden slats in the back here that are off of like a Willys wagon or something to keep your load from sliding around or scratching. So I left those. They're a little bit rotted away, but it's like a one-of-a-kind modification that he did that I thought was super cool.
You know, it's one of my favorite accents is the amount of wood that's used on this Jeep.
Yeah.
When we get to the back, you have a wooden bumper.
Yeah.
And that is just the coolest thing to me.
That was sort of just the mix between all these metals and woods and different sort of materials, you know, that are really interesting, and fabrics and stuff like that. I like the mix, but I like to make it have like a little bit of a backstory that maybe a farm guy had this Jeep or something like that, and that was what he had laying around to make a bumper out of, so that's what he used, you know what I mean? So that's sort of, I create a little backstory.
A little backstory in your head, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're at the back of the Jeep, and just looking at it, it's a very aggressive back end. Like, I don't really know how to express it, but it's
accessorized.
Accessorized, aggressive look to it. I think it's the perfect look for the back of this Jeep. I really, really do. I admire it quite a bit. So what is going on here? What makes this
a lot of different things?
Unique?
So obviously, just like the front end, you got to prepare for the trail. You got to always have your gas with you just in case you run out or somebody else does. Got to have your spare tire just in case you pop a bead or hit a rock or a nail or whatever, you know what I mean? But, so I modeled the back end off of what they did on the old military Jeeps. But they mounted it right to the tailgate, so you couldn't have the tailgate to sit on and eat lunch or anything. So I went one step further. I took the jerry can, I took the spare tire, got a swing out off of a CJ-7 and put it on here. That way I still have access to the tailgate. So we got a swing out here. That's a Jeep thing.
Yep.
That's just from a different model, but the guy, you know, with the backstory could have put it on there, you know what I mean? We got our tire iron here. We got our Willys tailgate. Everybody loves that with the stamping on there, the stencil 4-wheel drive. And that way you can, you know, pull these chains, flip the tailgate down and sit and eat your lunch or do some trail repairs if you need a little workbench area or whatever for that.
When they were rolling around the MB, they had all of this accessories on the back. They had
but
all
they
of this.
bolted it straight to this.
Exactly. There's no tailgate.
Yep.
And when the 2A came out, they gave it a tailgate.
Yep.
But you can't do this anymore. And so you kind of engineered around it.
Yep.
And you did a beautiful job. And I do want to point out that you could have used ratchet straps here.
Could have
But you
used
didn't.
military webbing. Could have used zip ties. I don't know.
Yep.
But yeah, I got some leather belts from Goodwill and put them on there just to match the sort of ruggedness materials that are used here, and super durable. You know, it's hard to ruin leather.
You know, if you told me that your uncle was a rancher for, 80 years,
Yep.
and he was the best man in the world, and he wore this belt every day, and he gave it to you as a gift, I would have believed you.
Yep.
But you didn't have to tell them their secret that these are Goodwill belts.
Yeah.
A little bit of dust on there, and they look like they have a story.
We did like 70 miles of trail today, 80 something yesterday. There's sure dust out here. So a few other things that I've done to the rear. A reverse light here, that's on a switch on the dash, and that way if I'm backing up into the garage or whatever, get some light to reverse. Had to replace the taillights, obviously those are always cracked and broken and busted, so those are just a standard taillight. PA lets you run the plate as long as it's the same year as on the title and everything else. So I did say this is a 46. For some reason it's titled as a 49. So I had to get a 49 plate. Who knows why? But it's really cool to run the vintage tag on there, license plate, just to make it fit like it's from the same time period. We mentioned before the wooden bumper. I took an old 4x4 out of a barn, that we had laying around the house from my grandma's old barn that was from the 1800s. Made a custom bumper there to bash off of rocks and other things just because there isn't one on a stock Jeep. Then I welded up this D-ring mount here just in case I need pulled out from the back or somebody else needs a little tug on a rock or out of a snowdrift or something like that. So that's kind of what I did to make this Jeep ready for the trail back here.
Well, Todd, you did a beautiful job on building this Jeep, taking care of it, and beating the tar out of it. I mean, this is a Jeep that if I had looked at it, I would have probably thought, okay, it's just another old farm Jeep. I would have probably thought it had some crazy backstory from some mountaineer or who knows what. And the reality is that a lot of those things, you took the style from the previous owner and you just rolled with it. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal. I really do.
Yeah.
Because it is unique. It is one of a kind. It tells a story by itself without actually telling a story.
Yeah.
And along that same line, and I ask everyone this question, what about this Jeep makes it yours? What is your one thing that I think, or that you think is like you?
I don't know.
It's such a hard question.
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, I guess just all the hard work, you know what I mean? In the vintage car community, a lot of people call them restorations. Well, this is not a restoration. This is what we call a preservation. That we're just trying to keep it on the road, keep it running and driving, and if it rusts away a little bit more, it rusts away a little bit more, you know what I mean? So I think preserving this for other people to see is an awesome thing. All the hard work that I've put into it, I mean, I can see every inch that I've had to touch on this Jeep to get it back on the road. And I think it just fits my personality, you know what I mean? If my coworkers and my family members are like, yeah, that's you, you know what I mean? You're a welder and a fabricator and a craftsman and a woodworker and a designer, you know what I mean? So I try to throw a little bit of each one of those talents and hobbies that I have into expressing myself a different way.
So I guess if your best friend, right, who knows you super, super well, had no idea you had this Jeep for some reason and seen this thing,
they would send me the
internet.
photo. They would be like, "This, you need to get this.
This is 100% you."
Yep, for sure.
It looks like your personality. That is the coolest thing.
Yep.
Thank you for putting your personality in steel for us to admire.
Yeah.
Thank you for driving me today. We had a
absolutely.
ton of fun.
It was a blast. Yeah.
This thing is unstoppable. So, guys, if you like this Jeep, there are a couple other Jeeps on this channel that we're doing walkarounds on. There's another CJ-2A that is a restoration. So you can take a look at that and really do a compare-contrast with this one. Also, this is not the first time, not the last time we're doing something like this. If you hit the subscribe button, you're going to see more of these. If you hit the bell next to it, you're going to be notified of more of these, and that is really in your best interest. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
We're gone jeeping. So be sure
To like,
Share.
and subscribe.
And if you want to be notified, make sure you ring that bell.